So we do have on the phone with us Representative Lauren Boebert. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, so
the schedule's a little hectic there. You had a lot of votes. You're on your way to a meeting, so we might not have as much time as we want. But thank you for giving us what time you have available. And I know Joe has a couple things he wants to talk about, so I'll hand it over to Joe.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Lauren, thanks for coming on. I know your schedule is crazy, and I sent over a couple things, just a couple questions that we had, but a couple of them just around the packing, what your thoughts are on packing of the Supreme Court. Maybe you can give us your thoughts on that to start with.
This is just another power grab by the left. I mean, we've heard Joe Biden testify in the Senate of how packing the Supreme Court is bad and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And I think he really just, instead of exposing that corruption, he took it on as a motto. I thought we weren't going to get any malarkey with this guy, but that's all it seemed to have been. We have more than 50 executive orders, and he's ruling this country by executive order. We just had to pull over. He was passing by us on the streets here in Washington, D.C., and all were hailing the king as he passed by. But, you know, packing the Supreme Court, Democrats already have the House. They have the Senate. They have the presidency. They have the fourth branch of government, the bureaucrats, and now they want the Supreme Court. The only reason they want it is for ultimate power, ultimate control, and it's interesting that they came up with the number 4 because that's the number that they would need to make sure they had a majority in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so what's interesting about that is that they're not even hiding it anymore, right? They're not even hiding the fact that they're communist or socialist ideologies. And as you get further down the rabbit hole, I feel like they're attacking us from every angle. And how do you? I mean, are you having conversations with other people, other Democrats in the House? And what kind of position are they taking? Are they taking a position that we have to just stand with Democrats, or is there any sensibility on that side of the aisle at all?
No.
All right. Well,
there's not much sensibility at all. We hear all of these calls for unity and bipartisan efforts. There is nothing bipartisan about the House of Representatives right now. These Democrat bills get crammed on us in the House, and we are forced to vote on them. And Republicans are demonized when we vote against spending millions of dollars and putting us further into debt, or voting on sesame seeds while we have a humanitarian crisis at the border that they will not even acknowledge. They're saying that Republicans are participating in political theater by going to the border and exposing what's going on and taking photos of what's happening there when the press isn't even allowed in. The media is not even allowed in because of the Harris-Biden regime. And then speaking of, Vice President Harris won't even show up to the border to see what's going on. So now Republicans are going down there and taking it upon themselves to expose what's happening to the American people. And Democrats are saying that that's political theater. Are you kidding me? So all of this stuff, it's not going through committee. It's coming straight to the floor, and we're forced to vote on it. And we've actually kind of jacked up the schedule purposefully here in Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives. And we are making sure that every member has to actually vote on this nonsense that they are trying to pass by unanimous consent. Now, can you believe this? There is significant legislation that passes the House of Representatives without a single member voting on it. So we are making sure that these suspension bills are not passed without members voting on them. And so it's taking a long time, 7-8 hours at times, to vote on them all. But that's exactly what we are sent here to do, is to vote on behalf of the American people.
Well, I think
you mentioned bipartisanship. When you look at, you weren't there, but when you look at 2016, Republicans had 241 seats in the House. Democrats only had 194. And yet Democrats were able to hold things hostage and force the Republicans to pass their agenda items, right? So that's how they killed the border wall, right? They got more funding for food stamps. Across the board, Democrats were able to hold together. What I see now is Democrats have a much smaller majority. I think Nancy Pelosi's now down to a 6-vote majority. So if 4 people defect.
Two vote
majority. Vote majority.
So if a couple defect, then it's done. But we don't see Republicans standing firm the way that Democrats did. What's going on with that?
That's a question that I think will always cross my mind is what's going on with that. But that's why I'm here, because I was frustrated at Republicans not holding the line and appeasing the Democrats in their voting in hopes that it actually gets them somewhere. It doesn't. It hurts the American people when we don't stay unified on the policies that we were elected to uphold and secure and push forward with. There is some hopes in a bipartisan effort that I am pushing forward next week. So I have a bill. It is the Protecting America's Energy Jobs Act. And Congressman Chip Roy is working with me to discharge my bill into a rule. This will reverse Joe Biden's executive orders on the Keystone XL pipeline, his oil and gas lease ban, and the fracking ban. And this bill will actually do so much for America. We are targeting Democrats who are in energy-rich districts to get on board with us. And I do believe that there are some who understand the value of fossil fuels in America and not outsourcing our energy production to our enemies, or having countries where they have children mining with their bare hands. I mean, this is taking place in the Congo, and they see that their human labor laws are not quite what ours are, and that people are suffering through this. So I do believe that we'll be able to get some to sign on with us, and we will be able to get this to pass the House of Representatives. So we're waiting on that to take place, and hopefully we'll see that next week.
Well, it seems as if, and we're actually going to promote that, by the way. So I just had them write it down so we can actually push out that bill specifically, and we can actually do a lot with Conservative Daily to put some pressure on the House and the Senate as well. But it seems to me that you run from fight to fight or fire to fire, and they're building all these little fires around you, and then they're creating chaos inside of our streets and the propaganda. And obviously, you heard what happened with CNN, right? And that they said that they were basically lying. We're a bunch of liars, and we lied to get this geriatric guy elected.
Yes.
Yes. You said that they have the House and they have the Senate, so they only have the Senate if they. If it's a 50-50 tie. Are you seeing that this bipartisanship that you may be able to build on at least one piece of legislation in the House will carry through and have a chance of passing the Senate and being signed by Biden?
Well, Joe, we have the filibuster in the Senate, so that really does us a lot of good right now.
Right.
So we don't need that 50-50 tiebreaker vote. We need 60 to actually get something passed there in the Senate. So as long as we keep that, as long as Sinema and Manchin hold to their words and don't get rid of the filibuster, we actually do have some hope there in the Senate. So we saw the budget reconciliation pass because that only required a 50-50 vote.
Right.
It didn't require the filibuster because it wasn't a law. It's just reconciling the budget. But this is why we need to expose to the American people what Democrat policies do and the consequences of electing Democrats. Now, I've been all throughout my district, and I've been in all sorts of meetings with school superintendents and energy workers and energy companies and commissioners and mayors and folks from both sides of the aisle. And in every meeting that I attend, I hear these policies are coming from the state legislature, and they have negative impacts on our communities, our industries, and everything that we are working on. Will the federal government please give us some money to help us with these unfunded mandates by the state? And so what I'm working on is to expose to the voters how these policies are coming from the state legislature have negative impacts on the communities and what they are actually doing to our communities. No matter what the intention of the bill is, we'll just go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll say that the state legislature just wants the very best for Colorado, and they have the best of intentions, and they just love the rural and urban communities equally. We'll just say that. And
It wouldn't be
when
true,
actually,
but it wouldn't be true. But you can say that.
we'll just say it. But when you actually implement these policies, they have real world impacts that are not good for the communities, especially in rural Colorado. And so to begin to expose that to the voters and say, look, you may think that you're voting compassionately when you vote for Democrats, but these are the impacts their policies are having on you and your family and your coworkers and your employers.
Yeah. So, and frankly, we're at a material disadvantage because you have the media on one side that's just standing against the American people. You have big tech, which is silencing and censoring people for standing up and speaking truth. We have your loud voice, right? Your voice that is very, very, it's a courageous voice. And so it becomes very difficult to get all of this stuff across to the American people when it's not, there's not a, it's almost like a vacuum, right? It feels like that there's no megaphone that is being given and that we're at a disadvantage. So now you are loud, but then they demonize you. So, and I know that we have Marjorie Taylor Greene that does the same thing. She stands up. You guys, probably two of the most courageous, most boisterous voices out there. What are you seeing that people can do in order to become that megaphone? What are you seeing that like Max and I can do? And I know that I'm probably a little bit more boisterous than most, but what can other people do? Just people in the community. What can they do?
They have to get involved. Get involved with you guys and let your voices be heard. You know, I have a loud voice for now, but what happens when they censor me just like they did James O'Keefe? What happens when they suspend me just like they did the President of the United States of America, the most powerful man in the world? I mean, what is my voice going to be when that day comes? And this is something that we have to continue to push against, continue to expose. The media, they are already losing their ratings. We have to hold big tech accountable. We have to hold these social media firms accountable. And we do that by banding together and continue to work locally in our communities and expose what's going on and continue to speak the truth to folks. And I'm actually 3 minutes late for my meeting now, so I have to run in here if that's okay. Right. I would love to get back on and talk to you guys some more and talk to you often. And
absolutely, Lauren, I just want to say thank you. God bless you. And you are a fearless leader, and you were desperately needed. But one of the last things I want to say to you is because of all the things that you do in Congress, I want the listeners to understand this one thing, and that is you always come back to the community and you ask them, what do you want? That's what representative government is supposed to be about. So I just want to say thank you to you, and we'll reach back out to you.
Yes, it's my honor to do that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys.
All right. God bless you. So that was Representative Lauren Boebert, and I have to tell you, she's amazing. She doesn't stop standing up. She doesn't stop fighting. She literally goes from, meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. She is, you hear a lot about what people in Congress do and how much time they spend serving the people. And I don't think I've seen someone work as hard as she has worked to preserve the rights that we have as Americans. So it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, it is. And obviously she's very busy. They had extra votes in Congress today, so they held her up longer than she expected to. So her whole D.C. schedule, she's not in Colorado, she's in D.C. Sometimes members of Congress fly home on Friday, so there was some up in the air whether she'd be in studio or not. But Pelosi wants to push through a lot of BS, so she had to stay and vote, because if she doesn't vote, then they're going to accuse her of not actually doing her job, right? So we didn't have her on for as long as we would have hoped, but we are going to have her on in the future for a longer, more in-depth discussion about important issues and topics.